This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Biming Lifeng laughed disdainfully, a look of ridicule in his eyes. He stared at the man in the hemp garment uncomfortably and said, "Brother Hao Miao, do you really like to provoke the relationship between the Crimson Moon City and my Biming Dark Palace?" Chang Haobua was slightly embarrassed as he laughed, "Brother Lifeng, you're making fun of me." Biming Lifeng looked at the wind and moon tower that was slowly rising into the sky with a look of admiration on his face. This wind and moon building is indeed a landmark of Red Moon City. It's hidden with hidden mechanisms and armor techniques. It's a wonder that it can rise with the wind. There was also a man in the restaurant who was carefully brewing tea. It was Ruan Zimo. As the boiling water was poured into the tea set, white smoke rose, and the fragrance spread, making people drool. It's so fragrant. I can feel that it's light and full of vitality just by taking a light sniff. It's worthy of being one of the 3 most famous teas in the world. Biming Lifeng turned around and walked to the table. Ruan Zimao chuckled as he lifted the teapot and poured tea into 3 exquisite purple jade cups. The bright red tea flowed out of the beast's mouth and into the purple cups, immediately turning into a light green color. The color of this blood tea is terrifying when it comes out of the pot, but why is it no different from ordinary tea when it enters the cup? Chang Haobua asked in surprise. Ruan Zimao smiled and said, "The color of the blood tea is similar to fresh blood. It's a little difficult to accept visually. It's impossible to achieve the complete color, fragrance, and taste. Therefore, Red Moon City had specially invited alchemy masters from the Sea of Soul formation to study it, and finally found this purple jade cup. As long as the blood-colored tea was poured into the cup, it would instantly turn light green. Not only would the taste and fragrance disappear, but it would also have the warmth and maintenance of purple jade, which made drinking it more comfortable. Please have a taste." Biming Lifeng and Cheng Haomiao each raised a purple jade teacup in front of them. After carefully tasting it, they swallowed it in one gulp. Immediately, a strange expression appeared on their faces, as well as a trace of joy. "Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful indeed." Chang Haoxiang circulated his inner qi and exhaled, praising, "It actually made the martial Dao barrier that I haven't been able to break through for a long time seem to loosen. Brother Zimao, how much does this tea cost per 500 grams? I would like to buy a few hundred grams to eat." Biming Lifeng's expression also changed. At their level, it was extremely difficult to advance their cultivation. Even all kinds of natural treasures wouldn't have much of an effect. However, this cup of blood tea was equivalent to several months of hard cultivation. Cold sweat appeared on Ruan Zimao's forehead. He said awkwardly, "A few hundred caddies of red tea. This blood tea is divided into 4 grades, extreme, high, middle, and low. They are the differences in quality caused by the blood of cultivators of different grades. The tea that Brother Heaven's Expanse had just drawn out was a high-grade blood tea. It had to be nourished with the blood of a martial sovereign of the 9 heavens realm from beginning to end. It could not be mixed with any other blood in the middle, and it could not be cut off for a day. This kind of high-grade blood tea would not exceed 2 caddies in the entire Red Moon City." "I see," Biming Lifeng nodded, "the cultivation conditions are so harsh. I was also surprised. If this blood tea could be mass-produced, then Red Moon City would have dominated the world. If blood tea of this level is only high-grade, then what kind of existence is the so-called top-grade?" Ruan Zimao said, "The supreme-grade blood tea is watered with the blood of a 9 stars martial emperor. Such an item has only existed in history. Back then, there was an old city lord who captured 2 enemies of 9 stars martial sovereigns alive and kept them alive with medicine. That's how he managed to grow the supreme-grade blood tea. However, he sacrificed the lives of 2 9 stars martial sovereigns and only got 3 taels of tea leaves. It's said that drinking it is like drinking sweet spring water, and it can directly break through the shackles of the 9 heavens. But it's a waste." The 2 of them were shocked when they heard this. It was really sensational to use the blood of a 9 stars martial emperor to nourish tea. That low-grade blood tea should be at least a few hundred caddies, right? I wonder how effective it is. Chang Haomiao said disappointedly. Ruan Zimao smiled and said, there are many types of low-grade blood tea. The blood of a martial venerable in the 8 desolates realm was of the middle grade, while those below the 8 desolates realm were of the lower grade. If it's those 1 yuan 2 parts 3 talents blood tea, it's quite easy to get a few hundred caddies. Forget it, forget it. I guess they can only be treated as tea, Chang Haobo shook his head. After finishing the tea, the 3 of them circulated their internal energy to absorb the effects of the tea. Only then did they slowly open their eyes. Bai Ming Lifeng sighed. I really don't know what the other 2 famous teas will taste like. It's hard to imagine that there's a tea in the world that can rival this blood tea. Brother Zimao, you're not planning to have an ulterior motive for treating us with such a precious item, are you? Chang Haomiao asked in a strange manner. Ruan Zimao sneered and said playfully, I do indeed have some intentions. I just hope that the 2 of you will let this little brother off in the arena battle. Oh. Bai Ming Lifeng smiled and said, could it be that Brother Zimao is also in love with his own cousin? Or are you also envious of the dowry? Ruan Zimao gave a bitter smile and said, Brother Lifeng must be joking. Those dowries aren't anything precious to the 3 of us. My younger cousin and I have been childhood sweethearts, so I hope that the 2 of you can fulfill my intentions and will definitely reward you generously. Even if the 2 of us don't use our full strength, do you think Brother Zimao can defeat all the influential heroes in the world? Chang Haobo rolled his eyes and said. Ruan Zimao smiled confidently and said in a clear voice, the 3 of us are the heroes of the younger generation. As for the others, I really don't put them in my eyes. I'm the head of the 4 greats of the north, but I don't deserve it, Bai Ming Lifeng said with a smile. I've always wanted to find the 2 of you to guide me in the path of martial Dao, so how could I give up such a good opportunity? However, since Brother Zimao has spoken, I have no choice but to do you this favor. As for the compensation, I'm too embarrassed to mention it, so I'll just randomly choose one of the Jiang clan's martial arts manuals from the dowry. Ruan Zimao nodded and said, this is one of the dowries. As long as I can win, it won't be a problem. What do you think, Brother Heaven's Expanse? Chang Haomiao laughed and said. Originally, the challenge tournament was just about participation. Although I'm known as the head of the 5 heroes of the Western region, I've never thought that I'd be able to dominate the world. After all, Brother Zimao and Brother Lifeng are both stronger than me. I'm not interested in the dowry or the beauty, but this blood tea kasaya. Ruan Zimao smiled bitterly. I didn't expect Brother Heaven's Expanse to be so obsessed with blood tea. Unfortunately, high-grade blood tea is really rare. I understand, Chang Haobo replied. I'm not asking for the blood tea, but since the Red Moon City has used the Martial Emperor's blood to water the high-grade blood tea, then the Martial Emperor must die. What I want is the Martial Emperor's soul. Chang Haomiao's eyes flickered, since it's a waste, why don't you let me take it? I only need 10 sovereign souls. As long as Brother Zimao agrees, I'll just go through the motions of this arena tournament. 10 sovereign souls. Ruan Zimao and Bai Ming Lifeng were both shocked. They both knew that the soul devourer sex cultivation technique required a large number of souls, and neither of them knew how much help 10 martial emperor's souls would be to Chang Haomiao. After all, the 3 of them were competitors, and they did not want to sit back and watch one of them become the dominant party. Ruan Zimao weighed his options and said, the Red Moon City can't produce 10 martial emperor's souls now, but I can promise that I will provide all of them within 5 years. Chang Haomiao frowned and said unhappily, 5 years? It'll be too late in 5 years, and I'll have 3 years at most. Otherwise, I can only fight to be the son-in-law of the Red Moon City with my own strength. Ruan Zimao's heart was filled with anger. He wasn't afraid of Chang Haomiao, but he was taking this marriage too seriously. He had to make sure that nothing went wrong. He gritted his teeth and said, all right, 3 years it is. Deal. Chang Haomiao was in a good mood and couldn't help but laugh, causing the other 2 to feel depressed. Ruan Zimao said, it's getting late. Let's go into the Wind and Moon Hotel. Let's meet the heroes of the world. Soon, a dragon carriage drove out of the restaurant. It was pulled by 4 martial Emperor Realm unicorn horses. It slowly moved in the air and headed toward the Wind and Moon restaurant. At this moment, the Wind and Moon building slowly rose into the sky under the control of these people. It was suspended 1,000 meters in the air, straight into the clouds, like a fairyland. The martial artists below were all stunned. Even the locals of the Red Moon City rarely saw such a magnificent scene. Ning Hongfeng's voice was heard. This gathering of the heroes was set up by the city's young master Wan Zimo. The purpose is to meet the heroes of the world, discuss martial arts, appreciate strange things, and resolve doubts. That's why only heroes can participate in the Kasaya, and all minions can get lost. All sorts of discussions could be heard from below. Someone asked loudly, "May I ask, my lord, why are you a minion?" Ning Hengfeng said, "Those whose cultivation base is not at the level of revered martial artist are just minions. Also, those that I find unpleasant to the eye are also minions. All revered martial artists can try to enter. As long as you don't get kicked out by me, you can enter." What? You can't enter even if you don't like it? What kind of rule is this? The rank of a martial honor had basically cut off most people's thoughts. There was also a rule that said, if you don't like it, get lost. Immediately, some people began to complain. Ning Hongfeng's lips curled into a cold smile, his eyes as sharp as daggers as he stared at the person who was complaining, and said coldly, "This is Red Moon City, my attitude is the rule, those who are not convinced can get lost. Also, you've already lost your qualification, so get lost." You coward. The grumbling man's face was full of anger, and the veins on his fists bulged. He was a 5-star martial supreme. He would be regarded as a god's favored son anywhere on the continent. However, he was disqualified just because the other party didn't like him. This was too unreasonable. However, he did not dare to voice his anger. He gritted his teeth and said, "Good, good. Then let's wait for the real joust for a spouse tournament to begin and see who's the real minion." For a moment, no one dared to ask any more questions. Instead, the martial emperors who were no longer qualified began to curse. In any case, he had already lost his qualification, and the Red Moon City could not kill him on the spot. After judging that the man had failed, Ning Hengfeng turned a deaf ear to everyone's curses and complaints. He quietly held his hands behind his back and looked up at the sky. The martial supremes flew nervously towards the Wind and Moon Tower. More than 30 people went in at once, but Ning Hengfeng did not seem to dislike anyone, so they were relieved. It's better to be safe. It's always good to dress up a little more handsome. After all, appearance is the external manifestation of a person's inner spirit. I have to show my unique aesthetic taste and my martial arts cultivation with endless potential. Just in case, a young revered martial artist took out a mirror to comb his hair and a makeup box to put on some powder and trim his eyebrows. After he was very satisfied, he flew up into the sky with confidence. Ning Hengfeng looked down and pointed at him, "You can get lost now." What? Why? The young man asked angrily. Give me a reason. I'm so handsome, but they won't let me in. Those ugly people still went in one by one. This is not fair. The reason is that I don't like you, Ning Hengfeng said indifferently. The young man was so angry that he roared, "You're just jealous of Inkai. You're jealous of my good looks. Are you going to get lost yourself, or do you want me to send you off?" Ning Hengfeng frowned. The aura from his body slightly spread out, and the young man's face suddenly changed. Thinking of the fate of Ge Qingfeng and the other man, his face turned green and he left with resentment, not daring to act rashly. With this young man's experience, everyone lowered their heads and squeezed into the building, afraid that Ning Hengfeng would take a fancy to them. Suddenly, 4 Qilin horse beasts pulled a dragon carriage and galloped over from the distance. Multicolored light spread out under their feet, and a vast cloud energy gathered around the carriage, making it seem solemn and sacred. The young and talented disciples in front all consciously retreated to the sides and stopped to look. It wasn't that they wanted to retreat, but the speed of the 4 Lima beasts was too fast. When the 4 of them combined their strength, they formed an indestructible sharp force in the surroundings. If they didn't retreat, they would definitely collide with them. Those who dared to drive a car here must be the people of the Red Moon City. No one would collect your body even if you were killed. However, there were still people who were indignant, and all kinds of complaints rose. Everyone is walking, but someone is showing off to drive a carriage. Is this right? He's the young master of Red Moon City, the head of the 7 stars of the Eastern region. What can you do about it? I can't do anything, I just don't like it. If they have the ability, they can hold this great ensemble on their own. Since they have gathered the people of the world, they must respect the people of the world. Is this how they treat guests? If they don't like you, they can ask you to get lost. If you don't like them, you have to get lost yourself. This is what it means to be in a situation where you are stronger than the person. Who asked this to be Red Moon City? Since that's the case, I won't come. We'll see who's the real one in the group arena. The person who spoke was dressed in a dark green robe. He looked fresh and handsome. His hands were behind his back as he spoke. Without any hesitation, he turned around and was about to leave. The 4 unicorn horses had already arrived in front of the Wind and Moon Hotel and suddenly stopped. The 4 unicorn horses became motionless like puppets. Ruan Zimao's chuckling voice came from the house. Young Master Chi Chi, please hold on. It was Zimao's negligence, please forgive him. The bead curtain on the dragon carriage was lifted and Ruan Zimao and the other 2 came out one after another, causing everyone to look at them in surprise. They didn't think that the 3 young masters of the younger generation would be together. Letting everyone see his elegant demeanor, this trip would not be in vain. What made everyone shocked was that the person who was about to leave was also one of the 4 prodigies of the North region, Zhu Xuanqi. Zhu Xuanqi's face was calm, he said indifferently, I didn't neglect you, it's just that this dragon carriage is too noble. It's beneath us to stand by the side, so I'd better stay away. Without any visible movements, he retreated 100 meters away in the air. Well said. Liu Yuxing's minions will also accompany Brother Xuanqi and leave. It was the person who had just spoken to Zhu Xuanqi. Everyone was shocked. Liu Yuxing, one of the 5 heroes of the Western region, had also appeared 100 meters away, standing side by side with Zhu Xuanqi. A playful smile appeared on his face, with a trace of coldness. Both of you are minions, so how can I call myself Yanjun? Another beam of light shot out, and everyone's eyelids twitched. Someone with sharp eyes immediately recognized it and exclaimed, He Guanyu, one of the 7 stars of the Eastern region. With 3 people taking the lead, they covered the East, West, and North regions. Immediately, many young disciples who had long been dissatisfied flew back and stood far away, as if they wanted to oppose Ruan Zimao. In the distance, Ning Hangfeng did not seem to hear anything. He still stood with his hands behind his back, looking up at the sky with his turbid eyes, as if he was thinking about something. The 4 martial emperor powerhouses who had activated the Wind and Moon Building's operation also stood in the distance. They were just standing guard in the sky as if they were a symbol. They were not interested in the affairs of these young people. Ruan Zimao's brows furrowed deeply, and his heart was slightly stirred. His original plan was to come by riding the dragon carriage together with the 3 of them. By traveling together, he would use his reputation to create the impression that the younger generation of the 3 regions would be led by the 3 of them. He would first become the leader of the 3 regions by his aura. He didn't expect that someone from the 4 finest talents, 5 heroes, and 7 stars would stand up to oppose his prestige. Whether it was intentional or not, this immediately broke Ruan Zimao's previously envisioned situation of a sovereign descending to the world. Moreover, more and more martial artists were flying towards Zhu Xuanqi and the others. The formation of a group to warm up was formed and it was difficult to suppress. Even 2 more of the 7 stars had joined in. Although only the younger generation was playing here, and there were no elders participating, and Ning Hangfeng and the others were just guards, in fact, the whole city's eyes were focused on the Wind and Moon Hotel. In the future, at least half of the leaders of the entire heavenly martial arts realm would be among these young people today. Ruan Zimao also felt the pressure. He could feel that the gazes of the Red Moon City and even the major powers were all focused on him. Brother Xuanqi, Brother Yuxing, you've come from far away, come with me to rest in the building. As for Brother Guanyu, Brother Li Xian, and Brother Tiangong, they were all friends of the eastern region. It was rare for them to get together, so they had to drink more blood tea. There are other travelers who are far away. Don't you want to enter the Wind and Moon building and enjoy the beautiful scenery of the Rainbow Rain? Ruan Zimao finished speaking with a smile and said very politely, if there is anything lacking in the entire process, Zimao would like to apologize to everyone. I hope that you can forgive me on account of Red Moon City. His explanation was clear and well-mannered, and his humble attitude made many young disciples feel flattered. Zhu Xuanqi said indifferently, I really don't dare to accept Brother Zimao's apology. I also wanted to go in and have a chat, but those 4 Qilin dragon salamander were too fierce and imposing, making this little brother's heart palpitate with fear, not daring to go forward. It's my negligence, Ruan Zimao said with a smile. He cast a few spells on the dragon carriage in the air. The 4 seemingly dull-looking Lima beasts seemed to wake up from their deep sleep one by one. The demonic qi on their bodies spread out, pulling the dragon carriage and stepping on the colorful clouds to go far. Ruan Zimao made a hand gesture and said, please. This time, everyone had nothing to pick on. At least, they felt much more comfortable than being treated like a human by Ning Hengfeng. Brother Zimao, please. Zhu Xuanqi also made a polite gesture. He walked over from a distance, and when he moved, the rest of the people followed. Ruan Zimao heaved a heavy sigh of relief in his heart, and cold sweat seeped out of his forehead. If this matter was not handled properly and a conflict occurred, he would lose a lot of face. Even if he could use the might of the Red Moon City to suppress all the dissatisfaction, it would be enough to make people talk and make his reputation fall. He sneaked a glance at Ning Hengfeng in the distance and muttered to himself, could it be that someone in the family arranged this on purpose to test my ability? The storm in front of them had been resolved, and everyone was about to enter the building when the distant howls of the Lima beast could be heard. The 4 galloping Lima beasts pulled the Xiang dragon over again. The colorful clouds spread out under their feet, and their power was even greater than before. Ruan Zimao's heart skipped a beat and he shouted in anger, who's there? You dare to ride my carriage? It's just a few little donkeys to ride. If it wasn't for the fact that such a shabby thing is the only thing I can find in the entire Red Moon City, do you think I would sit here? A disdainful voice came from the dragon carriage. Then, the bead curtain rolled up, and a white figure with an imposing appearance slowly came into everyone's view. The man was dressed in a Guangling gown and looked handsome. He was playing with a sword inlaid with jewels in his right hand. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised as he recited a poem. Who's the hero? Fancy moves, 7 judges of the eastern region. The 5 ghosts from the west were Xiong Fei Xiong. The remaining 4 scumbags of the north were too ugly, so plastic surgery was recommended. There are so many outstanding characters, all of them are ghosts and demons, making me laugh at all heroes. Everyone's expression changed drastically. His song had scolded all the young heroes in the world, the 7 stars of the East region, the 5 heroes of the West region, and the 4 prodigies of the North region. It was equivalent to offending all the heroes in the world at once. Even if the person's strength was not ordinary, his intelligence to open up a map to attract enemies was also worrying. Ning Hengfeng, who was far away, was also attracted by his curiosity. He looked at the man in white, and his pupils suddenly shrank. I was wondering who had come, Bai Ming Lifeng laughed coldly. Turns out it's just a troll. Brother Zimao, we're holding a banquet to invite friends. The table is full of delicious food, so we have to prevent flies. Ruan Zimao's eyes flashed with a cold light and he said coldly, where did this idiot come from? Don't spoil everyone's mood. Xiling, it's time to clean up. Ruan Xiling walked out from the crowd and angrily shouted, how dare you mock the heroes of the world? Since you are young and ignorant, you will kneel in front of the Wind and Moon Hotel and wait for the gathering of the heroes to deal with you. Psst. The white-robed man covered his mouth and laughed, exuding a charming and elegant girlish air. He then said sarcastically, "A bunch of trash talking about the heroes of the world, they really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. I'm the young master of Baijan from the southern region. Today, I'm going to meet you self-proclaimed heroes who are frogs in the well. Please remember my name, I'm Li Yi,